Arguably the biggest loss San Francisco had to go through last year was the ACL tear sustained by their all-pro safety Talno Hufanga. And while they've been impressed by their rookie Malik Mustafa and George Odom, Mustafa is just a rookie, and Odom only has 10 career starts at safety. So San Francisco's GM, John Lynch, did what a Hall of Fame safety GM does best and found one of the better options in the market in Tracy Walker III from the Lions. Unlike San Francisco's other safeties, Walker has a ton of experience at the position. He started in 43 games, including 6 last season while coming back from an Achilles injury. So will the 29-year-old stick with Georgia? There he showed off he was a true athlete, making varsity in both basketball and football. As a football player, Walker played all in the secondary, including safety and the cornerback positions. As a junior, he was an honorable mention pick for all-region choice after having 57 tackles and 2 interceptions. And as a senior, he finally was all-region choice after registering 67 tackles, 5 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and 7 tackles for loss. During his high school days, I thought a lot was there to indicate Tracy Walker was going to be a pretty good NFL safety. He flowed sideline to sideline with ease, had a knack for finding the ball, and laid out some massive hits. And 24/7 Sports also noticed Walker, ranking him as a 2-star recruit, and he had offers from Navy and Louisiana Lafayette. Ultimately, he did decide Louisiana. As a freshman, Walker did redshirt, but he also showed off his mental capacity, being named to the Sun Belt Conference Academic Honor Roll. The following year as a redshirt freshman in 2014 though, he was able to appear in all 13 games while starting in the final 8, and he finished 7th on the team with 44 tackles. He also was able to show off his great coverage ability this year, tying for a team lead with 2 interceptions. He was also 2nd in passes defended with 5, and tied for 2nd in pass breakups with 3. The following year in 2015, he saw his playing time increase, starting in 10 games, and he was the 2nd leading tackle for the Raging Cajuns during this time, with 74 tackles. He also had 6 pass breakups, a forced fumble, and an interception on the season. As a junior, I thought he continued to improve, especially in his pass coverage and determining where the quarterback wanted to go with ball. This season, he was 4th on his team with tackles with 61, but he was the team leader in interceptions with 3. Once again as a senior, we saw Tracy Walker continue to improve, which I think is arguably the most important part when drafting a player. If they're not able to be coached, they just won't make it in the NFL. But Walker can. During his final year with Louisiana in 2017, for instance, he played and started in all 12 games while also finishing as the team leader in tackles and interceptions, 97 tackles and 2 interceptions on this year. He also had a pretty impressive 6 pass breakups and 3.5 tackles for loss. After finishing his senior season, Walker's 276 tackles ranked 3rd all-time in Louisiana history for a defensive back. And after this illustrious career, Tracy Walker did want to play at the next level and entered the 2018 NFL Draft. At the Combine, Tracy Walker came in at 6'1", weighing 206 pounds, and he had pretty long arms, with them coming in at 33.5 inches. As far as testing went, he ran his 40-yard dash in 4.51 seconds and his 10-yard split in 1.53. He also put up the bench press 14 times. After having these numbers and his tape, scouts really started to break down the player Walker is, and they saw strengths as well as weaknesses. As far as strengths went, scouts loved how Walker utilized his long arms. He did a good job of getting up there and breaking up passes, and when he did have the opportunity to pick it off, he did. Across his career at Louisiana, for instance, he had 8 interceptions, and when he wasn't able to bring it down, he really did a good job of challenging the wide receiver. On a jump type ball, for instance, he would get vertical and often break it up. While Walker's coverage skills are impressive, my favorite skill of his is his ability to lay out some of the most brutal hits I've seen out of a safety in a long time. And he didn't just do that at the college level, but he carried that over to the NFL level where he would punish receivers for catching on him. But he's also not just doing this to wide receivers, he's also excellent in his run fits and doesn't back away from a big hit from anyone. And when he did chase down a ball carrier in open space, you didn't see him take poor angles, but he routinely chose the right one. While scouts saw a lot of strengths to Walker's game, they also saw some clear weaknesses. First, they questioned his ability to cover deep down the field at the next level. He also wasn't the strongest. Regardless of these concerns though, the Lions saw a safety they wanted and picked up Tracy Walker III in the 2018 NFL Draft in round 3 with pick 18. As a rookie in 2018, even though Walker didn't start, PFF had him liked Walker so much they decided to go his direction and send off Quandre Diggs to the Seattle Seahawks. During the season, Walker had his first 100 tackle year, coming in with 103 tackles, 1 interception, and 8 passes defended. During the following year in 2022, he remained productive productive with 87 tackles and 1 interception. 2021 once again saw Walker go signing this contract. On September 27, 2022, Walker was placed on IR after tearing his Achilles. Despite this though, Walker still registered 20 tackles on the year, including 1 sack, which brings us back to last season, or Walker's first season rehabbing from his Achilles tear. Often this injury does take more than 1 season for the player to return to their previous form, but despite that, Walker was still okay last season. He started in 6 games and had 59 tackles and 1 sack, and I think he continued to show off a lot of the greatness he had early on in his career. Like, he continued to have some brutal hits, and I thought he did a good job of quickly identifying where the ball was going and then flowing in that direction. But it was clear that he was still recovering from his injury and wasn't the same player he was in years past. But heading into this season, I do think Walker should continue to improve from last season's efforts. He is now over a year removed from this injury, so his speed and explosion should be much greater than it was last season. He's also arguably entering the perfect position for him. San Francisco safeties don't necessarily need to be the fastest, but they do need to be able to identify where the quarterback's going with the ball, and I do think Walker has that skill. And I think his aggressive play style fits San Francisco's identity perfectly. As a defensive back for San Francisco, you can't be afraid to come up and lay out a running back or a wide receiver, and Walker definitely isn't. The way he hits, for instance, kind of reminds me of San Francisco's old safety, Dante Whitner. So when you're looking at why the Lions moved off Walker, it's not because he's a poor player. He's actually pretty solid, especially for a backup role like San Francisco players they want to go to at the position. So it made a lot of sense for the Lions to cut Walker, but it also makes a ton of sense for San Francisco signing Tracy. The first thing that I want to point out is even though he's a veteran, he's still younger than San Francisco's other starting safety right now in George Odom. Odom, though, in comparison, doesn't have nearly the amount of experience Walker does. Tracy also has been a productive football player throughout his entire career, including college, the only thing that form he had in the past. When you're looking at another player who tore his Achilles like Richard Sherman in 2017, for instance, he had an off year coming to San Francisco the following year in 2018, only registering 37 tackles, no interceptions, and only 4 passes defended. The following year though, in 2019, after recovering from his Achilles a little bit more, he had 61 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 11 passes defended. So I think it's pretty common for a player to have an off year coming back from a significant injury like an Achilles. But I do think he can also return to form, especially when I'm watching his film. It's not like he's a bad player, but just a player who got injured. So for me, I can definitely see how Tracy Walker can push both George Odom and Malik Mustafa for that job opposite of Brown. But ultimately, these are just some of my thoughts about Tracy Walker, and I want to hear your thoughts down below and if you believe he can push for that job opposite of Jair Brown. It would also mean a ton to me if you could like and subscribe, and as always, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.